Hi guys, welcome to Short Skirts and Sarcasm. I'm Caroline, and today I will be taking you through all of the books that I read in May. And I can tell from my stats that I read 18. So I will go through these in alphabetical order by title. I will go through all the Robin Hobb books first because I read 5. So if I peppered them in, they'll be all out of order in the alphabetical list. So I'm just going to do them first. So I read Mad Ship and Ship of Destiny, the second and third books in the Live Ship Traders trilogy, and I really liked them. They were great adventure, nice wrap up, a little bit more sexual violence than I think any of us needed. And then I know I said in my May TBR that if I had time, I'll get to Fool's Errand, and I read the entire Tawny Man trilogy. So I guess I did get to Fool's Errand. So I read Fool's Errand, Golden Fool, and Fool's Fate, the entire Tawny Man trilogy, and that was a great adventure, and I also really liked it, and I'm looking forward to the Rainwild Chronicles. I can't really tell you much about it because that would then spoil the Farseer trilogy and part of the Live Ship Traders trilogy, so I'm just going to leave it there. And moving on to A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the sequel, the second book in the From Blood and Ash series, and much like the first one, it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was fun. The dialogue was really cringy, and I found a lot of the fantasy elements in this world really confusing. But that's okay. I didn't read it for, rigorous intellectual deep thought. So that's fine. Then I read Circus of Wonders by Elizabeth McNeil, and I absolutely loved it. I read the e-arc version of it, and I liked it so much that I then bought the hardback copy. So I have that now. It's beautiful, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading it again at some point. So this is about a girl who has birthmarks all over her body, and her father decides he doesn't want to bother with her anymore and sells her to the circus run by 2 brothers. And the main brother, who's very enthusiastic about his freak show circus, sort of wants to mold himself in the image of P.T. Barnum. And P.T. Barnum was obviously a sort of monstrous person who exploited people who were already at a disadvantage and marginalized. So, at first when I hear about freak show books, I'm very hesitant because I think it sort of glorifies the history of the freak show and that exploitation. However, it sounded like, the description sounded like it was going to try to be sensitive to that and show that that sort of exploitation is in fact really bad. And then I found out that Jen Campbell, who also has a YouTube channel, was the sensitivity reader for this, and she is disabled and a disability activist. So I was even more excited and sure that this was going to be a good book, and it absolutely was. And so it talks about the real P.T. Barnum and what a terrible exploiter he was. And so the main character of this, I think her name is Nell. I can't remember anyone's name, but that's okay. She sort of has this journey of self-discovery where she at first really relishes the attention when she gets used to it, and then thinks about what is motivating people to admire her. And so I would really recommend this book. Then I read Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the second book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and it's a YA mystery thriller series. And I thought it was very much like the first one, where it was fun, but you had to sort of not try to get angry at Pippa, the main character, for making bad decisions that put herself and her friends in danger. So in this one, we follow her. She's finished the mystery that she solved in the first book for her school project, and she has a podcast about it, and she's getting a little bit famous in the true crime community. And then her friend approaches her and asks her to investigate the disappearance of his brother, who the police are saying he's just a normal young man not wanting to talk to his parents. But his family keep insisting that that is not the case, and they're actually very worried that he hasn't been in touch. So a fun time. The mystery is solved at the end. There's some suspenseful bits and some twists, and I didn't see them coming. I usually don't, but I'm easily entertained. So if you are too, I would recommend this series. Then I read Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. I really liked it. It had, the writing style and the characterization that I loved about his other work. There were some things in it that I was confused by, and I didn't think that they were explained. So I didn't love it, but I really enjoyed it. So if you have read this book, because I don't want to spoil it, let me know, and maybe we can talk about the things that confused me. And then I read The Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan, and this is the last book in the series that is not the Percy Jackson series, but has Percy Jackson in it. I should actually figure out what that series is called, but it's the one where Camp Half-Blood meets their Roman American equivalents and save the world, essentially. So it was very fun. I love his writing style. I love the humor in it. I will absolutely read Percy Jackson in these books again, and the Kane Chronicles. I actually need to finish that one. I read the first one, but I need to read the rest of them. And then I read The Hidden Gallery by Mary Rose Wood, and this is the second book in the Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place series, and it follows Penelope Lumley, who gets engaged as a governess for these 3 children that were found in the woods of this estate, and they like to howl at the moon and are confused by clothes. So Penny, because she is bright and resourceful, sort of teaches them and uses their experience to her advantage and their advantage for their education. And it's really, really delightful. So in this book, the gang goes to London and does some sightseeing. There's some mystery elements. There's some mystery left over from the first book that is carried into this one, and it's added to. And I'm really excited to see where the rest of this series is going, because it's just absolutely delightful. It's a middle grade series, so it's a very quick and easy read. Then I read The Human Rights Dictatorship by Ned Richardson Little, and I really loved it. This is a academic history book about Cold War history, and I don't know what it is about Cold War history, but it just bounces off my skull and I can't retain anything. It was a difficult time because I did an entire international relations degree, which is mostly about the Cold War. So I'm still amazed that I managed to get through that. But this is about human rights in West Germany during the Cold War. And so if you're interested in that at all, I would absolutely recommend this book. It was also written very accessibly, so when I was actually reading it, I felt quite drawn in. Of course, I can't remember anything about it, so I will probably reread this book in the future. And then I read The Master and Margarita, Mikhail Bulgakov, and this was a reread for me. I read it for my book club. There is a giant cat in this, so that was part of our cat theme for this year. And much like the first one, there's a lot going on. There's no overarching plot. It's just the devil making a nuisance of himself in Moscow. And parts of it are confusing, but overall, it was fun. And it's more fun to reflect on than it was to read, but I would still recommend it. Then I read The Old Drift by Namwali Sarpal, and I finished this one on the plane ride over here to California. I had about 200 pages left, so I knocked those out, and it was really good. It was not at all what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be historical fiction, and part of it was, because it sort of starts in 1939, but then it continues up to 2023. And obviously in this, because it was published in 2019, there's no 2020 pandemic in it. But I thought this pivot to the future was pretty interesting. And what I also noticed about it and really enjoyed is there's an epilogue, there's a prologue and an epilogue sort of thing. And there's also at the end of each chapter, which follows one person, there is what sounds kind of like a Greek chorus of stuff, and about the people living in this part of Zambia, and the characters that we follow, and colonialism and colonial legacy. And it took me a while to realize that this like droning chorus was actually like from the perspective of mosquitoes, because a lot of this story talks about malaria. And what I then also noticed was, you know how within chapters there's sometimes like a little break between blocks of text, and sometimes there's like dots to separate it, or stars or something. It's really hard to see on Kindle, but I noticed that the little thing that was separating blocks of text was actually like a little mosquito. So you kind of have to like look at it very closely. But I thought that was so clever, and I really loved that. I would really recommend that you read The Old Drift. And then I read The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. And I really liked this. It disturbed me so much, and it was very sad. But if you like to read about pandemics during a pandemic, I would definitely recommend it. It takes place on a maternity ward in, I think it's Dublin, somewhere in Ireland in 1918. It's about a nurse, and she sort of like makes friends with the single female doctor that's there and her fellow nurses, like trying to, you know, get through what was already a tough job and made even tougher by pandemic life. And there's a lot of graphic birth and death and autopsy scenes. So if medical gore isn't your fave, I would not recommend this, but otherwise I definitely would. Then I read The Wolfden by Elodie Harper, and this follows a girl who was sold by her mother into slavery during the time of the Roman Empire. She's originally Greek, but she makes her way through various hands to Pointe, where she works in the brothel called the Wolfden. And this is her trying to escape her servitude, because it's not a fun time. And so in that way, it's very bleak. It leaves nothing ambiguous. Like, you know that she's always afraid for her life and afraid of violence. And in that way, it's very, very harrowing. It's emotionally harrowing. But a lot of the times you don't see any of the violence, so it never feels like it's salacious or like it's trying to like grab your attention with gore or like dramatics. So you know it's there, but you don't always see it or read about it directly. So, and there's also a lot of levity in it to sort of cut through that. Like, her relationships with her colleagues are, for the most part, like very nice. Like, sometimes they have, you know, bitchy fights, but it's always like pretty minor. And at the end of the day, like, they all support each other and wish each other well. So the ending of this like isn't happy or sad. It's very bittersweet. And I thought it was very fitting, and it really fits the tone of the rest of the story, because if it was like a perfectly happy ending, it would feel really out of place considering what the rest of the plot was about. And if it was like really, really bleak, there would be like no point in reading it, because like the rest of the story is already so bleak. It would just be like a little life, just bleakness and sadness all the time. So I think this was a really, really well done book, and I would recommend that you read it. May was a really good reading month, and the last book I read was Turning Point by Chloe Angel. And originally I was going to put this on my June TBR, but I was on the plane and I finished The Old Drift. So I decided, because this is one of my most anticipated new releases of 2021, I had it pre-ordered, I would read this. And I read it all in one go, in one sitting, and it was amazing. And this is a nonfiction book about ballet, and it has a lot of ballet history in it. But like the book itself says, it's not about the history of ballet, it's about the future of ballet. So Chloe Angel identifies a lot of problems in the ballet world, from like racism, fat phobia, physical injury, and the pressure to dance through pain and dance through injuries, and also stuff like the sexual harassment that is in the ballet world because it's so insular. So this was a really great book. She talked to a lot of great people who are trying to change the ballet world to make it more inclusive for gender non-conforming people and queer people and fat dancers and Black dancers. And it was equal parts like disturbing and heartwarming, because like a lot of the emotional and physical pain that Chloe has described in this is pretty harrowing. And but then all her interviews with the people trying to make the ballet world better are so hopeful and great. So I would really recommend that you read this because Chloe Angel is a journalist. She has a really great writing voice, and she also has a great newsletter that you should subscribe to. It's called My Pointe Is, like point shoe, like turning point shoe. It's great. And she is like a very experienced, very good writer. So even if you're not like into ballet, I would still recommend this because it is very well written, and I think there's something to be gained from this knowledge. So that's it. That's my 18 books of the month of May. I will give you some stats. 31% of my May books were print, 25 were ebooks, and 43.8 were audiobook. Total pages, 9,278, and my average rating was 88.89. So it was a pretty good reading month. The lowest rated book on this was The Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, the sequel to From Blood and Ash, and I rated it 3 stars because I like enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. So that's it. I will see you next time. You can subscribe for more content. You can like this video. You can also follow me on social media. Everything will be linked in the description box. Bye.